Speaking of federal expenses, I know, of course, you all support small government, and you also opposed the federal bailout of the banks a couple years ago. What about the bailout of GM and Chrysler? Was that a bad idea? Mr. Rooney?
I can start. You know, it's easy to say in retrospect it was a bad idea. I would have done it differently, and the way I would have done it, understanding bankruptcy laws and those sorts of things, instead of completely doing an end run around what our institutional understanding on bankruptcy laws is, we fixed the system. And what we should have done is say to GM and Chrysler that we will be a backstop for you at the back end of this bankruptcy that you're about to go through. So we won't allow a federal judge or a judge to liquidate you. We'll guarantee that you're still going to be around. But to guarantee it on the front end was a bad idea. And I can tell you, you know, Congressman Walberg...
It saved jobs in the district, didn't it?
We could have saved more jobs if we would have done it the way I thought about it. Congressman Walberg was against the TARP, and appropriately so. However, he did sign a letter saying after the auto bailout vote that he missed didn't pass the Senate, it went to President Bush, and he signed a letter along with every other congressman and woman in Michigan saying, use TARP funds to bail out the auto industry. Well, they ended up doing that. I'm not so sure it was constitutional because TARP was specifically for Wall Street, not for GM and Chrysler. And when you monkey with the system like our president did and a lot of congressmen and women, you end up getting this horse-buy committee that we ended up with GM and Chrysler. Now, they're becoming competitive again, but they would have been even better than what we have now. I believe 61% we still own of GM. I'm very fearful in the future that when we do finally do a public offering for that stock, who's going to feel confident that, yeah, I'm going to buy GM stock, and if the company does go south again, I'm going to be treated equally in what the law says I'm going to be treated.
Was that some of that true, Mr. Walberg? And did you, looking back, was it a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, I think that the proof is in the pudding, that what ultimately happened was we took any incentive away from General Motors and Chrysler to do all that was necessary to put themselves in sound footing for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. We knew, and I made that very clear, I knew that it would ultimately come to a bankruptcy. The question was, is it going to be a public-run bankruptcy or a private bankruptcy? You only have to look at Delta Airlines or Ford Motor Company that did the restructuring that was necessary or went through a private sector bankruptcy that left everything on the table. We took some things off the table, or the government, in owning the auto industry, took things off the table that I think would have produced more jobs in the future, would have kept more jobs in the present, and would have set the leadership of GM and Chrysler up to be able to run a company that was based on sound principles and not past excessive legacy costs.
Well, plain and simple, it was a UAW payoff for the union support of the Obama administration. I believe that what we have to do is, in the capitalist system, we have to be prepared for failure. That's what the capitalist system is all about. We have opportunities for success. My hero, for example, Henry Ford, he failed twice before Ford Motor Company actually became viable. That's what we have to go back to. We have to say to all those companies across the board, not selected companies, not those that have special pleading in terms of union representation that spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to get their candidate elected. We have to say across the board, yeah, you have opportunity to prosper in this country, but if you don't succeed, the government's not going to come out and bail you out. So I differ from both of these gentlemen. I think and I believe that we should have let General Motors go through the normal bankruptcy proceeding. We would still
end up... cost you a lot of jobs, a lot of people, thousands of jobs in this district?
It would have cost a lot of UAW jobs, but what it would have done, it was actually level or reduce the obligation that General Motors, for example, had in terms of its employment portfolio, and therefore would have kept that country or that company viable. And we would, as time worked itself out, we would have had more jobs. It would have been, yes, a very short-term problem, but in the longer term, General Motors would have come back. Now we're looking at a system where we have to publicly divest ourselves, and Brian is right. when we have now a company that has failed to show that failure is a result of the UAW labor burden, we have to change that.